Man, oh man. Well, I can already tell you that this stair stringer right here is going to be a problem. Welcome back. And home DIY. What does DIY stand for? Do it yourself, damage it yourself, do it wrong yourself. I don't know. Anyway, this video, we are going to go through some DIY home interior stair finishing. We're going to rewind a few years ago when me and my wife built this place. We did not have the bonus room or this staircase finished at the time when we built this place. And we've since finished the bonus room, and we've been looking at this staircase with plywood steps for pretty much the last 8 years. So we're going to do something about that. Now, you do want to make sure that you always check your local code enforcement to make sure that you're not missing anything and that you're doing everything properly. But this particular set of stairs, the stringers were already built and the structure was already there. All we're doing is beautifying them, so we're going to get after this. Now, I did my best to try to get the lighting fairly reasonable for this video, but you can see that we only have one hallway light, which we're going to do something about that. We're going to utilize that light, but we're actually going to put two recessed light cans, one up there and then one straight down here at the bottom to kind of brighten up this dark spot right here. But what you're seeing is the finished bonus room up top and then the staircase that we're dealing with. Now, I did already jump the gun and I finished the trim on the left side of the staircase, as you can see all the way down. And now I'm going to show you how we're doing that on the left side. Okay, now I know what you're thinking. You see a Carolina Panthers rug laying there. Listen, we live here. It's not our fault that's the team we were given. Now, I'm showing you this in raw form. I am not a master trim carpenter. I'm only decent at best. But with a little common sense, you can make these things go a long way. Now, through the rest of the house, you can see that the trim, I want to say that that's like around 5 inch, 5 1/4. And here, this is about 7 1/2, I believe. I only did that because I didn't want to buy any more trim, and I had enough from doing these stairs, this stair trim to complete that out. And I really don't think that you're going to notice that. But here you can see where I made the transition down. And there's some gaps right here, but that's okay. That's all going to get filled in and puttied, before it's painted. Now, one thing that you got to remember is that this gap that goes all the way down between these stringers, it goes down there approximately 7 inches, or 6. It's either 6 or 7 inches. So this is basically just 1 by 6, I believe, and don't hold me to any of those measurements. Like I said, I'm not a professional at this, just kind of DIY guy. But I believe this was about a 1 by 6 or 1 by 5, one of the two. And we went ahead and cleaned this whole rail. It goes all the way up the stairs. We cleaned all that out so that this first piece could slide down in there and sit even with it. And that spaces your main trim up to give it the space and the gap here, so this isn't sitting down so low. Now, what I ran into before I added this piece is with the actual stair trim, when I stuck just this piece alone all the way down and I did my measurements, the top of the step tread was actually going to protrude higher than the trim, and we just can't have that, and that's just not a nice look. So of course, naturally, the little nail holes will get filled and this little seam will get filled, and when it's painted, you won't even see any of it. Now, the side that I did was the easy side, and the reason I started with that is because even though they did a pretty good job with these stringers, the framers I'm speaking of, they did make just a slight little blunder. I don't know if you can tell as I walk up these stairs, and I'm not the most graceful on stairs, but that trim, it's about 5/8 of an inch thick, which means that has to slip between, that has to slip between the stringer and the wall. But if you look real close, the top of this stringer, and this problem starts really about from the 4th step down, the top of the stringer actually bows out and goes right up against the wall. So that is a issue, because there's no way in this world we're ever going to get that trim down in there. So what we're going to have to do right now, and I'm going to show you that in hyperspeed, is we have to strip these stairs all the way down to the stringers. So there's going to be a lot of hammering going on, but we are going to tear after that and get these stairs stripped. Oh, to be a dad. Destruction. Stair stringer stripped, we have just bare basic stair stringers. So the plan is now we're going to go up this left side all the way up to the top, and we're just going to cut us out some temporary stairs, probably just 1 2x, and just kind of temporarily nail it down into place, just so we have something that we can get up to the top easily. And then from there, I'll show you what the plan is on getting that bowed stringer tilted in just a little bit. So we're going to go ahead and cut more of these. We just cut the first 5 just to make sure our fitment was correct. So we're just going to go ahead and nail these last 2 ones down with our new Ryobi Airstrike nailer. Now, this is a 16 gauge nailer and it's got 18 gauge nails in it. That's okay, this is just temporarily just to keep them from sliding around. Okay, now that we got our temporary steps made, all I did to fix this problem was, so before, this stringer here was dead smack tilted against this wall. So I just used a couple of those timber lock screws, and even though it bent the snot out of this one, that's okay, it's still holding pretty good. And just basically ran a screw from there, screw to there, and just ratchet strap just to kind of tilt the top of this stringer over. That will give us the clearance that we need to get our trim right down in there.
Now when we're putting the bottom trim piece, I just took a small scrap piece to get my angle. I didn't have any fancy angle finders, so I just used a small piece. We'll cut our angle on it, and you can build off of this. Now, that part is going to be hidden, so you're not really going to see, even if you do butt joint those together. And then you can go ahead and take your full piece and run those all the way down full length of the stairs. Until you get to the bottom, you will have a slight angle on that, which I cut just a little bit short to leave myself plenty of room for the trim, and I knew that the toe kick and the step tread would cover it. Same here on the finished trim. I just used a small piece. These were originally 12 foot long, and I ripped this one down to about 2 feet, just so it was an easier piece to manage while I got my angles cut and I notched around the very top step plate. Now here is where we don't want to butt joint it. We put those on a 45 just to have a more seamless look. And then we can carry that all the way down to the bottom of the stairs. Now before you get all the way down to the bottom of your vertical trim, you want to get your horizontal baseboard in place so you have a better idea of where your transition is going to be from your vertical piece down the stairs to the baseboard. Here, I notched out just the trim piece that's made onto that base trim. I cut that piece off and keep that because that's important. But I took a measurement from the bottom of this stair stringer on this side, and I transferred that to the right side of where we're working, just so cosmetically, when you walk into the hallway and you look down, both of those break in the same position. You don't want to have mismatched trim. It needs to be symmetrical. But the extra trim piece that we notched off of that is going to be critical, because once we do our horizontal trim and we get that in place, we're going to use that little piece to create our 45s to fill in the gap. It's really a time-consuming, tedious process when you get into this part, when you start to get all these odd angles. But just take your time and be patient, and don't make any cuts without measuring several times if you're not sure yourself like I am. And here is where we have the transition from the vertical to the horizontal. And we're going to use that little piece we cut off, and we're going to just cut basically 2 45s off of that trim piece. And we will be able to place that in here to make the finished edge, that rolled machined edge, just a seamless transition from the vertical to the horizontal to make this look like it was all one piece at one time. Now this is tricky, and take your time. There's for comparison, left side to the right side. And I know you see nail holes and small gaps, but listen, there's going to get puttied and filled, and you won't see it anyway once it's painted. Now, before we do our stair plates and our risers, we had to put the 2x4s back in there, and I do use glue and nails on that as well, because these is going to what set the height of our step tread, which a comfortable height is 7 to 7.5 inches. Glue, glue, glue. When it comes to stairs and trim like this, glue is your friend. That's what makes a solid feel. And on the risers, I want to touch on this. Risers can be pretty expensive when you buy these pre-cut. This is a 1/2 inch sheet, 4x8 sheet of poplar plywood that I bought. And with the use of a table saw, I cut all the risers out of that one sheet. And I did this because it's just much cheaper, and you have more control over the variances from the imperfections from the framers. And I was able to get 14 stairs out of one sheet of 4x8 plywood. Now, also, glue, glue, glue. We're going to run a bead up each one of them stringers. Then we're set the kickboard right into place, and we'll nail it in. Now, make sure before you do a final nailing on your kickboard, you use one of your step treads as a sample, just to make sure that you get the height of your step tread or your riser where it needs to be. But after you get them all in place, she's ready to be caulked where the riser meets the trim. Go ahead and putty in all your nail holes and all your seams and finish that out, and it's ready for paint. These are 36-inch wide, pre-made, pre-cut step treads that we purchased from Lowe's, and they're 1-inch oak. Now there was 14 of these, and definitely double check both sides to make sure that you're going to finish the best looking side. Some of them weren't as good as the others. And this is just a walnut Minwax stain. We only required 1 coat of stain to match the original floors in our home. And what's nice about this is with this stain exactly the same from the hallway all the way up the stairs, you'll have a transition that's just flawless in color. Definitely remember to do the back sides of your boards, because part of that's going to be exposed. The hangover is going to be exposed, and you'll be able to see it as you climb the stairs. So definitely go down about 2 to 3 inches on the back side of the board.
So I apologize for all the commentating, but I realized through several of those clips that I had the camera in the wrong setting and it wasn't recording any audio. But nonetheless, you guys get to the drift where we're going with it all. These bad boys are all stained and ready to go. Now, this is 1 coat of stain, and we're going to leave them right now and let it dry overnight, because the color can slightly change. And since we're going to be matching these up with our original hardwood floors in the house, we want to make sure that we're as accurate as we can possibly be. So let them dry, let them do what they're going to do. We'll take one of them in the house tomorrow just to compare with the old wood floor. If it looks good, great. We're going to urethane these things. And if they are not dark enough, then we will go with another coat. And that's all the process is there. Now, one thing I want to make sure that you realize when you're doing this is these are pre-made step treads that we got from Home Depot. And although they're in pretty good shape, inspect both sides of the board, because there is some that are better than the others. And there's gaps and where a knot, like there was a slight knot that kind of fell out. So you want to make sure that you get the best side of the board possible and use that for your finished edge. It is the day after, and as suspected, these look just a little bit lighter than yesterday. I knew that they would lighten up a little bit when they dry. Let's go ahead and grab one of these, take it into the house, and see how well she matches. So we went ahead and brought it in the house, comparing this to the rest of the floor in the house, and we got a perfect match. So we're going to go ahead and prep these things for urethane, and we're going to go ahead and get all of our trim puttied and sanded and ready for paint. I'm sure of what I'm talking about when I say we're going to putty these seams. This right here, there's a small gap between the wall and this door facing trim, And we're just gonna take this is the DAT brand, and this is the latex filler. Now this is brilliant white. These things are extremely cheap, but it's made for indoor or outdoor use, and it's made for these purposes here. But we're just gonna fill that in right there, so whenever we take this off to paint all the trim and the rest of the walls, we have a nice clean line, no gaps. Now on these smaller nail holes like that, we're still gonna use the same filler that we're using around the door seams, but this is gonna be a whole lot easier just by spraying or squeezing just a little bit out on your finger and just kind of smash it in there and smoothing it out. Then you can come back to it and just kind of wipe it off with like a wet sponge or a rag. It'll be nice and smooth and ready to paint. So we are back out in the garage, and I have all those over there, polyurethane. This is just the first coat, and I still have these 6 to go. Now, the polyurethane will also slightly darken your finish, so just be mindful of that. It's not enough to really make a difference on the match between this and the floor of the house. But it does give it that nice, this is a semi-gloss, so it just gives it that sheen, but not a shine. It'll make it a whole lot easier to keep prints and stuff like that off. But we're gonna go ahead and keep getting after this. I think we're probably gonna end up doing 1 to 2 more coats to have a total of 3 coats on these boards, and then we will be ready to install. So 3 coats of semi-gloss polyurethane complete. You can see how it has that nice little sheen to it, but it's not a shine. And that is the exact finish to match the rest of the house that we're going for. So we still need to paint the trim. All that trim that we installed and we caulked and got everything ready, we still need to paint that, so we're gonna work on that tomorrow. And then Saturday morning, today's Thursday, paint tomorrow. Saturday morning, we're gonna glue and nail these bad boys down. Kind of get an idea of what our finished product's gonna look like. Alrighty, these things are ready for paint. Me and Liam, he's my helper tonight. Now, he may not be the nailer and the board splitter, but when it comes to taping and painting, he is your man. And he is with me tonight to get these things painted. So we're taped up, we got our paint mixed, and we're getting ready to get after it. Slapping it on there like Tom Sawyer, just giving it the beans. Look how good of a job he's doing. This thing is shaping up to be bright white in a hurry. We are gonna have to do another coat on this thing, but once that second coat's on there and we start nailing down these freshly stained and polyurethane step treads, this thing will take on a whole new look. Well, what are you thinking so far? The step treads are just laying on there right now. They're not glued or nailed, but you know, the paint dried, so we wanted to kind of see what these things were gonna look like, and we're pretty happy with the results. Now we still need to go ahead and pull all the tape off from where we had everything masked to paint. But everything's laying flat and solid. We will have to take a little bit of sealer just to go around the edge whenever these things are nailed down. There's the slightest minute gap on each side. This is 36 inches wide, and I bought these already pre-made at 36 inches, but of course, not knocking the framers, but you know, you remember the stair stringer thing, so they're a little bit off on their measurements, but that's okay. A little bit of silicone in between that will fix that right up. You'll never know the difference. So we're gonna go through and get these things glued, nailed down, and we're gonna let these things just cure with that glue underneath them for a while, probably for a day or so before we actually start using them. Now, I saved you your time by not recording me nailing and gluing every one of these step treads, but I am going to show you what the process is on these last 2. Now, I have all these other ones already completed, but I'm just going to do a quick run through on these 2, and then you carry the process the rest of the way up the stairs. So what we're doing is we got our liquid nail. You definitely want to glue these boards down before you nail them. If they don't squeak right away, they will start to squeak. So glue is incredibly important on a project like this. So this is the liquid nail heavy duty. There's several different brands, but just get a good brand. Get a heavy duty version or an extreme duty. So once that sets up, it really bonds that stair to those stringers, and you don't have any squeaks or noises going up and down the stairs. So my little process, what I like to do is I pull the stair that's below it down just a little bit. I bring the step tread that I'm working on just on top of that, and I like to use this gap right here so I can put my nail or my glue gun. That way, if any of the glue seeps out while I'm not paying attention to it, it leaks out onto the stringer instead of the step tread that's already finished. So with our liquid nail, we're going to put some glue gobbers right here and just kind of work our way in a, just kind of in a squiggly pattern, just to make sure we have as much coverage as possible. We're going to repeat the same one on this board. Let's see. Alright. And then also on the top of our kick plate, we're going to run a small bead all the way across as well. Again, the purpose of all this is for stability and noise control. So now that our glue is set, we're going to take our step tread and we're going to put it about 90% of the way, and then we're going to set it down into the glue. We're going to shove it into our toe kick, and we're going to just rock this thing, kind of move it around. Any jiggle that we can, we want to do that. That way we can really smash the glue. Now another important step to do on these is once you got these set, you're going to want to bang these things down in there, put some pressure on them. Really smash that glue into place. You can already hear that it's a very solid sound. So that is exactly what we're looking for. Now that that's in place, we like what we're seeing on this side and on this side. So these are already pre-cut to fit. We're going to go ahead and use our airstrike. We're going to go ahead and nail these down in place. This is a 16 gauge nail. Now we have a solid step. This is not going to go anywhere. And of course we'll repeat that same process on the bottom step. So we've wrapped up this DIY stair renovation project, and we want to thank you for watching every step of the way. This is not an impossible project to do, but it is time consuming, it is labor intensive, and contractors charge the prices they do for a reason. This project did not take the 20 or 30 minutes, however long this video turns out to be. This was over the course of a couple weeks, kind of nipping away at it a little bit here and there each day. So if you're in a time crunch, contractor is going to be your best option. But this is doable with home DIY tools, and encourage you, if you're thinking about doing it, don't be afraid. Give it a whirl. Just make sure you follow all your local codes and do it the right way. Even if it takes longer, it's important. So thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.